Talk a little bit about your relationship with John Glenn. I mean, it started out adversarial. You guys ran against each other and obviously morphed into something else.
Yeah, we had a very tough race where I ran against him and lost in 1992. But I was elected to the United States Senate 2 years later, and he was the senior senator, and there are two of us in the United States Senate, and I think we worked very, very well. He was someone who cared so passionately about Ohio and cared so passionately about our country. And he had so much knowledge. I mean, the whole, not just the space, but knowledge about the military. And so he brought so much, I think, to any kind of discussion. It was my privilege to serve with him for 4 years on the Senate Intelligence Committee. It was kind of rare to have two Ohioans together on the Intelligence Committee. But, he always asked thoughtful questions. And I think you sometimes think in the Senate, there are people who get up and give speeches, and then there are other people who do the work. John Glenn
was the latter.
He was the latter. I mean, he was a workhorse. I mean, somewhat ironic, I think. Here's a guy who is a national hero, international hero, goes to the Senate, and I never saw him looking for TV cameras or anything else. I mean, he was there to do a job, and he did it.
Were you a little bit, I would say, awestruck necessarily, but being able to work with someone who had such an important role in his astronaut era in history there? I mean,
well, yeah, I mean, I remember, like anybody my age does, when John Glenn went up into space, and the outcome wasn't predetermined. I mean, this is the first American to go, not into space, but the first American to go around the Earth, and he went around the Earth 3 times. And I remember being in high school and listening to that on the radio, and literally, we stopped what we were doing. This was something where the whole country stopped for 4.5, 5 hours, however long he was up, right, and just focused on it. So then later on, for me to be in the United States Senate, working with him, yeah, that was a great thrill.
We were talking a little bit, and you mentioned a set of circumstances when he went back up into space as a 77 years old and kind of back to the future, revisiting what he had done, and talk about your involvement with that episode.
Well, Fran and I and a couple of our children went down to watch the launch, and it was, I think that was the first launch we'd ever seen, and it was just, spectacular. And you look at that, and you look and say, here's John Glenn going back up into space again at whatever age he
77,
was. 77,
right,
which is just amazing. So I took a picture of him, or of it going up, the rocket, and it going up, and had it blown up, and then later on got him to sign it. So it's one of my prized possessions in my house, picture that I took of John Glenn going up the second time, and he signed it.
Okay. So what again, if you were to think about the qualities that the public admired about him so much, what would be the most important ones in your mind?
I suppose a lot of the qualities that people saw in him are the same qualities that whoever selected the 7 original astronauts. Someone who is cool under pressure, calm, very bright, in great physical shape. I remember one time we were going to the White House, and there was a meeting with the president, and we were in the Senate chamber.
Which president would that have been?
Well, I don't even remember, to tell you the truth. I'm not sure, but we were going there, and we were walking out of the Senate chamber, and Senator Glenn said to me, he says, "Hey, Mike, you want to ride with me?" So I got in his car, and I don't think it was my imagination, but I just watched him drive that car, and that eye-hand coordination that they talk about pilots having to have. It was unbelievable to me just to watch him do that. So it was a real thrill to be in the United States Senate with him and to work on things with him. We weren't on too many committees together. We were on the Intelligence Committee, but what we certainly did always work on is Ohio issues, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, NASA Glenn, as we now call it. Things that were very, very important to the state.
Okay, so I mean, he has left a lasting impression that I think gives him iconic status. Yeah.
Oh, he's always going to be, a national hero. His name is going to be in the history books when our great grandkids are reading history. Yeah, it was, his passing today is a great legend has died. But the other thing, I would see him after he was out of the United States Senate, and he and his amazing wife, Annie, Mrs. Glenn.
Well, I think
just
you and
amazing
he
person.
share something there, that amazing bond you have with your wife, you and Fran,
Well, we do.
and Annie. Yeah,
You know, I mean, they were sweethearts as
Inseparable.
and as children, and so they were always together. But she was a very gracious, very amazing person. But just to see him, even after the Senate, he was always trying to do things.
I mean, he had that school established.
John Glenn
Ohio State,
Institute
John
at
Glenn
Ohio
Institute,
State,
yes.
which
I mean,
has been-
a lot of people went through there who were contributing in public service.
Absolutely right, and he contributed too. I mean, he was there. He would go over there. He would talk to
Hands-on,
students.
right.
He was hands-on, and imagine the thrill of a student at Ohio State or from wherever, talking with John Glenn.
Right. Well, as you say, he made a remarkable contribution, and he will be deeply missed. And thank you for coming
He will
by to
indeed.
reminisce a little bit.
Thank you.
Thank you.